What's up, bikers? Episode 151 of the B1KER Bar live stream podcast. One of these days, I'm going to make one of those like fancy, like jingle kind of music things that plays so I don't have to say anything. And then that'll be great. It would be like I have arrived. You'll know that this podcast is really legit once that happens. But until then, what I would really enjoy is somebody out there to help support the channel. Somebody that listens all the time is like, you know what? I like this dude. I'd like to buy him a beer. Swing over there at Patreon and buy me a beer. That would be great. I really appreciate that. It's honestly everybody over there on Patreon that really helps keep this going. I say this every week, but it really truly is it's the truth, man. So you guys make it happen. I really appreciate that. Those of you guys that just want to hang out, if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, hit subscribe. If you like what you see, do the thumbs up. You know, the social media is out there as well. Definitely can swing by Facebook or Instagram. One of these days, I'll get to the TikTok. And you know what? I made a couple of reels and shorts just recently, and I didn't even think about putting them on TikTok. I should have done that. Anyways, I really appreciate all you guys out there, regardless of which way you go about watching the content. Even if you're just a podcast guy, it doesn't matter. If you're really into this podcast, you know what you could do? You could swing by Apple Podcasts and you could write a 5-star review. That would be rad. I haven't checked in a while, so somebody surprise me. I'm gonna check before next episode, and somebody surprise me that you'll write me a good review. That would be sweet. Then the podcast dump truck money will show up before the YouTube dump truck. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. We'll bring Mr. Porter back on. How's it going, dude?
Good. How are you doing?
Man, I'm living the dream, dude. You know?
Same.
Right. You know, my wife asked me before you got on, where do you live? I forgot what state. I like named like 5 of them.
What'd you have?
I said like Idaho or Wyoming or something like that.
Yeah,
and then
close.
She was like,
we're Utah, so we border both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that was the third one. I did say maybe it was Utah because she responded with, she's like, well, that's the same time zone as us. And I was like, oh, maybe it's Utah then. So, well, it's close, man.
Yep.
Right on, man.
We're in the Park City area, so it's melting out now. All the high stuff is still buried in 7 feet of snow, and down here in town, we're melted out. But the rivers, and there's rivers where they didn't used to be rivers, and through trails, and so it was our record-breaking winter for us.
Yeah, it's been insane out here in Northern California. Like, I saw a picture just the other day of some place that's like not too far from us and still has like 25 feet of snow, like where the roads like cut through.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, Mammoth, I think they said they're staying open as long as they can, like into June, July, whatever they can make.
Yeah.
And up north of Downeyville and the High Sierra up there is it's got to be so deep right now.
Yeah. You know, I saw that Downeyville had they called it an opening day party right at like in like a couple of weeks, like a week or two. And I just don't, that's impossible. Like, cause I was in South Lake last weekend and just looking up at some of the stuff that I know is similar elevation, it's still like way under snow. So I think they're just doing it to like try to get people out there or something like that.
Yeah.
But
cool place to hang out. I haven't been there much, but it's on my list of, I got to go there a lot more, like in that category of places where I've been, but I need way more time there.
Yeah. In Downeyville, or just you're saying like
I mean, that whole area.
There's some pretty rad stuff up there. I know, I'm sure you're familiar with like BKXE and his property over there, Everstoke. That is really in a good location. It's dead in between Downeyville, Mills Peak, and Mount Huff, which are all like super fun shuttles. Like, I mean, even if you were to do something like that with your family, like, I mean, I've seen they're all pretty good riders. So you've ridden Downeyville before, right?
Yeah, but none of the classic stuff. So I went there with Kurt Gensheimer, the angry single speeder, and like he's been a part of that scene for a long time with building trails, and he's a writer, journalist as well.
Yeah.
And so he took me on. He knows the type of trails I like, and I can't even remember which ones, but he took me on all the obscure stuff and big epic rides and unreal rides. We even did a gravel bike packing trip from Verdi over by Reno over to, I think we finished in Nevada City.
Oh,
and,
wow.
We went over, I think is it Hennis Pass?
I'm not sure what pass that is, but I think I know what route you probably took. So just generally speaking, because I know I had a buddy that wanted me to do something from basically Truckee down to Nevada City. So I would imagine to get from Reno to Truckee, I think I know which way you went. So yeah, that's rad, man.
It was awesome. And we rode, I remember we stopped into Forest City, which is like a ghost town basically, but there are cool new trails getting built into there. And that was when they were, I think it's done or partially done now, but that's when they were telling us all about the, how all these communities are getting connected by trails now, which was really cool to hear.
Yeah, that group from what is it? It's Yuba
Trail Stewardship, right?
Yeah. They're like super active in getting all that stuff like put together, and they used to be part of like the bike shop, or the bike shop was like kind of part of their group that was there in Downeyville, but now they're just in Quincy there by Mount Huff. But yeah, man, it's crazy like the amount of work that they're doing to connect all those places together. It's just really kind of insane.
It's awesome. It's a great way to bring people to these communities that used to be logging or mineral resources or whatever, things like that, and give people a reason to go there and spend money at businesses and keep them going.
Yeah. It's always a catch-22 with the people that live there. You know, like some people that live in those places are like, they moved there because they didn't want to see anybody. And now they're like, what the hell? This place is all busy with all these people, you know? But then on the other hand, you're like, dude, you should be happy that you have a store that has like stuff in it now, you know? Because if all these people weren't buying things, that wouldn't be able to stay open, you know?
Totally. I think that's the hardest balance for sure. I mean, we see it here in Park City. When I moved here in 2005, I think it was just starting to become a bike destination, but it was mostly ski town. And so all summer, anyone that worked at ski resorts, they were on unemployment all summer. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of them loved that too. And that was a great part of the program.
Right.
But basically, you know, everyone was here to be ski bums, and Main Street was dead. Hotels were dead. Restaurants would just close all summer and then open up again in the winter. And through trail development, now Park City is, I mean, you know, a lot of people would argue probably that it's too crowded. And, you know, Main Street and the town, they don't want more events, because there's basically events on Main Street every weekend of the summer with arts festival and bike stuff and everything else. So I think, you know, maybe we almost went too far that way. And but the good thing is there's tons of companies here now. There's people here year round. So hotels are doing good, businesses are doing good, restaurants, and it's attracted industry as well. So like Backcountry and Competitive Cyclists are here, and Rosignol and Skull Candy and all these big companies. So people that moved here to be ski bums now have real jobs in the outdoor industry, living here in Park City, in the area. And so, you know, you always got to look at it from the positive side of things, because otherwise you're going to get bummed on everything. But, you know,
I hear you there, dude. I'm definitely all about the positive spin. So
yeah, when you're sitting in traffic though, it's hard to not reminisce about the old days of, we used to be able to show up at 10 a.m. on a powder day and have no problem parking and things like that. But, you know, there's no balance in humanity, I don't think, really.
Yeah, right.
It swings so far one way or the other. And, you know, they're solving it here with dispersion. So I work with Wasatch Trails Foundation over on the Wasatch County side. So next county over in the other side of the mountain. And so, you know, the Trail Foundation in Park City, Mountain Trails Foundation, they're helping us, kind of mentoring us and sharing grants and things like that, so that we can build more trails on this side. And people from over here don't have to drive over there, and we can kind of spread the love more. So it's not all concentrated in one area.
Yeah, totally, man. That's awesome. How'd you end up there?
We moved so just the super quick history. Grew up in Kentucky, and when I was 12, my parents took me skiing in Colorado, and I realized that my life goal was moving to the mountains, like real big mountains, and having winters and just big mountains. And so went to college in Kentucky, and because I could afford it. And then when I finally moved out, I moved to Durango, Colorado. That's where things worked out for my bike career. Started traveling all the time at that point. And Durango is a small little town in, a long ways from a real airport and stuff. So we ended up moving to New Jersey for a year, because that's where Aaron Chase, Jeff Lenoski, Kyle Ebbett, all the whole East Coast crew that were really my idols at first, and then friends and mentors and people I was filming with, they all lived in that area. So we moved out there for a year. It's easy to travel from. We lived at Mountain Creek Bike Park, super fun. And then after a year of that, though, we were like, okay, now it's time to get back to the mountains. And my wife's from Alaska, so she was a year on the East Coast in New Jersey was plenty for her as well.
Right. She's like, let's get to somewhere that's out of the way and small. She's probably one of those people that's all pissed off about Park City getting.
And, so we had a short list of like maybe the Reno area, because it's got an airport there, and you got Tahoe. We looked at Northwest and Seattle, but the first place that we flew out to actually check out was Park City, and we signed a lease before we left. We had a weekend here and had a lease signed, a year lease on an apartment, and it just had everything. It was everyone's discovered it at this point, but it's a small little mountain town with great skiing, tons of snow, and it's 40 minutes from a huge city that all the bands come to, professional sports, all the stores you could want, Costco, and international airport, like nonstop to Tokyo, Europe. So it's kind of like the best of everything. So we can live in a kind of little mountain town, and then also have the benefits of a big city.
Yeah, totally. I can relate with that. I mean, I'm not in a mountain town, but it's like Sacramento is like a smaller town to like San Francisco, so you get all the like stuff that San Francisco has, and it's not too far away. So, but you're definitely like way closer though. Is like the snow sports like your favorite hobby, and then like riding bike is your job, or do you look at them like the same level of like enjoyment that you get out of them?
They're pretty close. I actually, when I was in high school, I dreamed of being a pro snowboarder and trying to make that work out, because I loved that more than anything. And funny enough, going to college in Kentucky kind of kept me away from the snow more than I needed to be on snow. And but it did put me in with the collegiate bike team. So I started racing all the collegiate races, and I loved mountain biking. That was the first thing I did. Went to college, because my parents were like, you got to like look into clubs or things like that, so you can friends. And the bike team was the first thing I found, and that was what I did all the time. First job was at a bike shop, and everything. So
you're like close to the same age as me. How old are you?
43.
43. Okay, yeah. So like mountain biking then was pretty new by that point, whenever you were doing that in college.
Totally. It was an awesome time for it, really. And so back to the original question, I love them both so much, and one of them keeps the other one all summer. I'm loving being able to ride and all the stuff, but I'm thinking about snowboarding and skiing and snowmobiling. In the winter, I fully immerse in that world for a little while, and while I'm still editing bike stuff I shot from the year and doing some trips, but I really do like to just kind of check out of one and into the other, and do what's the best at the time. And
I used to do that a lot. I that used to be the way that I kind of like flip flop between the two sports, but I think just being in Northern California, it's so easy to ride like fun stuff all year. So I think between that and just the cost of lift tickets now is just crazy. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Every time I go skiing, it brings it back. You know what I mean? I get like, oh, dude, I should buy a pass. But I know, like, for me, I'm always chasing like this like fitness. Woo! I don't know what that was.
Bug zapper.
Oh no, I don't have a bug zapper. So hang on a second. I want to make sure my fucking garage isn't burning down.
Right. Yeah,
That
pop
was
a fuse, start a fire.
Yeah. It almost sounds like the like my compressor or something like that, like a little hose popped or something like that.
Almost, did you see some new tires today? It almost sounded like a bead finally popped on.
Yeah, I can hear something though hissing like slightly. So
if I see a fire, I'll let you know.
Dude, if we see a fire, I'm gonna grab my bikes and then I'm gonna let this garage burn down, because I'm like I'd be stoked if this garage burned down. Then I could build a new one. It would only cost me my deductible.
Is paid up, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So anyways, what were we saying before that thing happened?
Oh, just talking about bikes and snowboarding and skiing.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
Man, I ride so much all summer, and I'm, so deep in that world, and I love it more than anything as well. But I'm totally ready once the snow comes, and I push it to the end. I keep riding, and some of my favorite rides are fall is my favorite season for riding for multiple reasons. So first of all, it's coming to an end, and it's going to, especially where we're going to get snow and the trails will get shut down. So there's that, time factor where you're like, okay, this is it. This might be the last ride of the year on this trail, whatever it is. So let's make it a good one. And you start kind of packing them in where you're like, let's go ride this one before it snows. And then the storm
definitely,
and you're like, okay, let's get it this morning. So only like 2 inches on the trail, and then you can slash around and
right. I definitely go through that exact same thing here with basically all of our high altitude stuff, because it's like you only have so many weekends to get up into like the real like out there kind of trails. So once that that snow is coming, and sometimes it's early in October, sometimes you get lucky and it's like November, so we're definitely doing the same thing in Tahoe. It's like, oh, this might be it. And I think the thing that I like about it though the most is then come spring, you get to see like how much you've like progressed, like you'll be like, holy crap, man, my like Strava time is like 30 seconds faster, or man, I climbed that hill. Oh, that's what I was saying before that noise happened, is I'm always trying to like, I think this is part of the reason why I end up riding all winter instead of getting in more of the snow stuff, is that I'm always like kind of chasing like this level of fitness. And I'm like, I know if I don't ride X amount of days, then I'm going to lose that. You know what I mean? And I think that's the thing where it's like, I need to go out and put in like 4,000 feet this, on a ride this weekend, or I'm not going to be able to do 4,000 feet anymore. You know what I mean? So
that's a real thing. I mean, I kind of feel the opposite, to where I feel like spring is a relearning time, to where, and I have the desert I can go ride, and I do go down to Moab or St. George or whatever and ride sometimes, but not as much. And for some reason, it doesn't matter how much I go split boarding and I go running in the winter and do things to try and keep my cardio up. For whatever reason, spinning pedals on a bike, I feel like garbage in the spring. And I feel like I'm just chasing fitness until like, June or July. And then I feel like I'm in a place where I like to be. And then by the time fall rolls around, the skills and the fitness are kind of at their high point. So that's like, it all times up for your skills are on point because you've been riding every day, and your fitness is on point. And then you get some moisture back in the dirt and leaves are falling. And
it's so fun.
Like I would, outside of I would skip spring and summer riding for fall riding, because that's like, I don't care about the long summer days or any of that stuff. The fall riding, it's the best. But
yeah, I think here in Northern California, it's like spring and fall, because those are the two times a year where the ground's wet, so like those are definitely like, they're really good windows. So, and I mean, Tahoe gets really sandy, so especially like right now, like right whenever the snow's melting. I was in South Lake last weekend, and that like sandy DG kind of soil that they have there, I swear it's like a 2 or 3 week window where it's like perfect. Like
yeah,
it just pushes in like concrete, and then after that it turns into a sandbox.
right,
And it's like, that's fun too. You have to ride it a lot differently.
right.
I don't know if you guys have something similar there, but it's kind of like you almost like ski your front tire through stuff. You don't like weight it the same that you would when it's like a pack berm.
Yeah, it's totally different here. I know the dirt you're talking about, and Mammoth has that too, right? With the DG, the decomposed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. For what it does here is it snows and melts off, and then it goes like this spring. It's dusty till you hit the snow line, which we're like, what happened to the? No, but we've actually been getting some rain now, so we got some tonight. The dirt will be great tomorrow, and it dries up pretty quick here. And then if it doesn't rain for a while, it just turns to dust. So it just starts to like get like the trail actually. It's crazy. It's not really water so much that exposes all the rocks on our trail. It's when it's dry and dusty, the dirt just kind of evaporates and blows away almost as it gets ridden. But it stays. There's almost nowhere that I can think of. There's one specific spot that's a little kind of a sand spot, but all the trails here, they don't get to where your front wheel pushes in like that. It's just hard pack dirt that you can hook up on with, the right tires, but it's just dust, and you just come back and your face is brown and like for your glasses. So
yeah, totally. That's it's interesting, man. I've been editing this video that I was riding in Pennsylvania, and it was really just like making me think about how insanely different like it is from place to place to ride in, just like the soil and stuff like that. It's just I on that particular trip, I think I went in with a level of confidence that I shouldn't have. And I was like, oh, we do like 6,000 feet of descent in California. I'm going to this place. It's like the highest altitude in the whole state's 3,000 feet. I'm going to be fine. And we do gnarly stuff in the mountains, like,
totally.
and then I go there and I just get my ass handed to me. And it's interesting, like how different places can be.
Oh yeah. And Sedona too. That place is so physical. You go down there and it's the spring. So like I said, I haven't been riding as much.
Yeah.
But every time you go to Sedona, I feel like I'm just it's like you almost got in a fight or something. Like it's just physical riding, you have to move up and over all this stuff. And it's totally different than St. George desert riding. And it's not just, it's the trail building, but it's also the rocks and the dirt, how it rides. And then East Coast, it's almost like you got to cut your miles in half. Like if you're like, oh yeah, 20-mile Tahoe ride, no problem. You go to Pennsylvania, that's a 10-mile ride as far as your level. And
and even the trails are just like, at least the stuff that I was riding at that particular place, like the trail speed on those trails was like, if you were going between 10 and 15 miles an hour, you were lucky. You know what I mean? Like, like I did this climb that was probably like a 20-minute climb. And in my head, like I was thinking like NorCal, okay, I'm going to jump on this trail and I'm going to be back down at my car in like 5 minutes. I'm going to do laps, and then it took me like 45 minutes to get down the hill. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh my God, this is like so much like tech and like, just like almost you're like you're doing a trials ride through this like rock gardens and stuff. And you're like, man, this is so different than like how we ride out here,
Yeah. I mean, that was where technical riding started really. Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, and some of those trails around there. And there's a whole crew of riders with EWS, Jay DeJesus and Chris Van Dyne, who was a pro. He rode Rampage for a while. His dad Galen, he would, you remember, did you ever hear the old Canada bike, the Beast of the East?
It sounds familiar.
So that was a bike that came out of there, and they were, making bikes around this even that could ride this, rocky technical stuff, because there weren't purpose-built trails like there are now. We were just all riding. I wasn't there, but even in Kentucky, it was everything we were riding in, I guess it would have been, I started riding early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So I was 12 probably. Actually riding mountain bike trails, and it was hiking trails. There's no such thing as a mountain bike trail.
Yeah, no, there was no such thing as an illegal mountain bike trail, because we were all riding every hiking trail basically.
Totally. And nobody knew how to manage it or what was going on or whatever. But and I think part of, like, it had a high filter. You had to, I don't know what it was, but you had to want to mountain bike then, because it wasn't easy. And you really, I don't know, you had to have kind of someone show you the ropes too. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something you could easily go out and do on your own. There's so much to learn, and it's so much easier to get into the sport now, which is.
Yeah. I mean, in the early 90s, we were riding like fully rigid bikes on this like super technical rocky stuff with no dropper, and it was definitely interesting. So I had a conversation with a friend not too long ago where it was like, I'm pretty sure that's why I like that, like, slow tech kind of stuff, and I'm pretty good at it, is like those were the skills that I built initially. You know what I mean? So it's like, to me, whenever I would think of going mountain biking, that's what we would do, is like go to some rock garden that looked like you couldn't ride through it, and be like, wow, we made it through that, Yeah. And I got a buddy, he's from Minnesota, and to him, he's like, man, I like that fast, flowy trails. And I'm like, well, yeah, because that's what you guys had there, like, you didn't have tech, so, right. So, it's interesting.
Yeah, totally. I think, have you had, do you know Aaron Lutzy, Super Rider?
YouTube? No, I don't. No.
You should have him on. He's awesome. So he has, I met him years ago riding trials, and he grew up in Wisconsin, and he was actually a pro trials rider with Jeff Lenoski, like in the.
Oh, right on.
And, he's done a ton of stuff since then, but he started Super Rider YouTube channel because he wanted to make trials videos on YouTube. And so anyway, he's trying to, I don't know, like, I feel like it's kind of a lost art right now, where everyone's gone so far in the flow trail thing that there's so many new riders that don't understand or know technical skills. And I think it was awesome. I loved riding trials growing up, and that was you almost had to, right? To some extent learn how to track stand and hop and like balance and ride over things to be able to ride these trails.
Yeah. And then just like really teaches you really good, like, brake control and like body placement. And it definitely helps. I mean, it's not like it I don't know. Do you think that those skills from that crosses over to like high speed stuff too? Or do you think it's just like a different skill set?
I mean, it's kind of a different skill set, but it's the foundation for everything, I think. Yeah. I'm so happy that I rode trials, and it was something like, half the time it was riding trials in the streets, like on ledges and stairs and on college campus and that sort of thing. And I did a handful of trials competitions where you're actually, it's like a, climbing contest or something, basically, where they build like an obstacle course, and you have to ride your bike through it with the least amount of dabs, they call it, where you put your foot down. But it's, it's totally what, Lenoski's doing with Trail Boss, and riding these technical sections of trails. And I still think those skills, even though they're slow speed skills, they're balance skills and they're bike handling skills. So you have such an intimate understanding of what everything does on your bike. And it's not going to, you still got to go fast to learn how to go fast, but it's the best kind of foundation for balance and bike control for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. I was watching,
like, you can just screw around in your driveway and sometimes you don't have time to go for a ride, but you want to ride your bike. And so you can make a little course with some logs and stuff around in your yard or driveway. And I used to do it all the time. I learned how to track stand in my dorm room, like in between the beds, because it's something I could do when I was there.
Yeah, that's funny. I bought this dirt jumper because that was my plan, was like to work on like skills like right outside of my house. And then I didn't ride it for like a year.
Yeah, I push that all the time. Like, get a dirt jump bike and just mess around on it, because you can learn so many skills. And all these people got built manual trainers during the pandemic, and you got like a sidewalk right in a street,
right? Yeah.
Back brake, like that's just start messing around with it, because it teaches, like, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't teach you the most important skills. It just makes sure that you don't fall over backwards.
Yeah.
If you're going to learn manuals, you got to learn how to fall over backwards anyway and take a foot off, or how to use your brake. And so, I kind of feel like I don't know how much those are. I'd love to see like a, study on it.
Yeah.
Everybody that built a manual trainer and trained on one, how much of an impact did it actually have? And can you manual now?
Yeah, I was watching. It's funny you mentioned this. I was watching a Yuka video earlier today where she had built one of those, and it seemed like she like had it down in her garage on the manual thing, and then when she went outside, it was like no skills. So like it seems to me like what you're saying is accurate. Like,
I think it comes down to everyone wants a hack or a shortcut, or like, what's the inside line? What's the quick way to do it?
Yeah.
I think manuals, and same thing with like whips and tabletops, I'm pretty sure there's no shortcut. It just takes reps. Like that's great if like you're still on your bike and you're having fun, you're building something and you're playing around on it, and it makes you more comfortable sitting in that position. Great. Like, I'm all for people having a good time and trying stuff. But I just, I think the message I want to get across, I almost made a video on it at some point, and maybe I'll mention it in a video at some point, but like, that's not going to teach you to manual. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like, you got to take the steps, and,
we should get together and you can teach me how to manual. It's one of those things that I want to do, but I don't want to put any time into trying.
It's one of those things, like, I can manual, like just about it, like pretty good. It's one of my strong skills that I feel really confident with, and I love doing all the time. But I do it every ride too. I still have to practice and maintain that skill. It's something it's a really finite balance point with a lot of minute adjustments to keep it up. And it takes a lot of time to do. That's what nobody wants to hear. Same thing with even jumping a bike. Everyone wants, like, how can I learn how to jump a bike better tomorrow? You're like, well, you can start the process tomorrow, but like this summer you're gonna get to like this far, and then next summer to this far, and like to hit dirt jumps like what's in my yard, that just takes years, unfortunately. For there's some skills like that really just take a lot of time and practice, and that's why when you look at the world, there's not that many people that can manual a bike or dirt jump big dirt jumps or get like a real whip on a bike. Like, that's not a strong skill of mine, because I was doing tricks and I was doing tabletops and other stuff, and I never put the time in on whips. So like, I don't have a strong, whip like you see in the whip off world championships.
I think like, I don't know what the trick was called. Like, when we would jump BMX, you kind of like lay your bike over and then you like put it back up straight again,
Yeah, tabletop.
Right? Okay. So like, to me, like a whip is just like an exaggerated tabletop then, right?
Well, the whip would be when it goes sideways. So when you like lean off the lip and the whole back end of the bike goes sideways, and then it comes back, and it's all in this kind of fluid motion over and back. Whereas the tabletop,
so you're actually like turning your whole body when you're doing it, and like kind of like throwing the bike that way. It's not like you're moving the bike that way with your feet.
Yeah, that's a kick out. And
Okay.
kickouts feel cool, and you'll see it and hear it all the time. Like, oh, I did a sick whip on that. And most of the time it's a kick out. And that's great. You're having fun on your bike. But they're different. It's different when you get down to the, what is this trick called? And, tabletop, you lift the bike up sideways with your legs. And so if your legs are coming up, your arms are going all the way over. Like when you're doing it right, you don't have your feet are floating off the pedals. Your hands are rotated around your grips, not on your brakes at all. And because that's what it takes to actually get the bike sideways. And that takes, I'm still working on those. And I can get them, like I'm happy with them. I love them. It's one of my favorite things to do. But I'm like, it's one of those tricks you're never going to be satisfied with it. You know? And there's a few people that I could point out. There's actually an Instagram, Tabe Lords. That's just all the sickest tables on BMX. And then whips, it's a whole thing where you're going into the lip and you're leaning over sideways and you're kind of carving off the lip, and it's a whole motion. Like on a dirt bike, they have the throttle, so they do the same thing, and then when they crack the throttle, they can use the gyros to help bring it back, and it's a whole motion. The same thing with, you'll see it on downhill bikes and dirt jump bikes, where it's a whole like whip, and you're kind of turning sideways and then you're turning back. And it's a difficult thing to do. It's not something you can be like, I'm just going to go do one now, because you'll do one and then you'll land 90, because it just takes years to get the motion of figuring out how to get it over and how to get it back. Now kick out, go off a jump.
Landing sideways in the 90s, not a good day, I would imagine.
It's not good. There's ways you can do it with, like, as long as you get your front wheel straight. A lot of times you can get stuff out if you're you can also slap the ground really hard. So that's where, like, when you start jumping and doing stuff and you're riding the bike park and you get your bike out to the side, you're doing a kick out to the side, and it feels cool, and it looks cool. You're not straight and that sort of thing, but it's a different mechanics than a whip. That's kind of maybe a better way to put it. So
I was just trying to like think of how you do it, and like to me it seemed like it would be like a little bit of a natural progression from like a tabletop to a kick out to a whip, you know what I mean? Like but you still got to put a bunch of time into it.
And you can, people will combo kind of whip and tabling a bit with it, and people get all folded up in their bikes, and it's pretty see. But I would categorize tables and whips in different categories because of the way that you take off. But you can you can table and whip a little bit, you can blend them a little bit, but they're kind of different mechanics to make them happen. And same thing with, like, if someone wants to manual, I'd say the first step would be learning how to wheelie. So, learning how to pop it up while you're sitting down, use your brake to, keep from looping out, and using your pedals to bring it up and brake to bring it down. And then you can start finding those balance points. And then the manual is the next step beyond that, to where you're standing up. You're not using your seat. So you have one less contact point to kind of help keep this together. And your body's in a different position. And the real, a lot of people, especially mountain biking, because we have really strong, trustworthy brakes, will really rely on their brakes to kind of get that. You're still bouncing side to side, but they're kind of using the brake to keep the front end balanced. So you're basically, a lot of time what I see is people will be manually too far back, but they're using their brake and modulating their brake to actually keep the front end up instead of moving their body around as much. And I was lucky I didn't grow up riding BMX since I was a kid, but when I started college, I got a BMX and started street riding every night in Louisville, Kentucky. There's a big BMX scene, and I learned how to. I rode brakeless BMX for a summer, which brakeless BMX is back now, and a lot of people are doing that. But that was where
we just rode with no brakes because we want our bikes to be lighter.
Man,
I didn't know it was like a trend. We just did it because we were like trying to make our bikes light, or we like didn't have money for pads, or you know what I mean? It was like
totally.
That's just what we did.
Like, brakes kind of sucked anyway. BMXs, and then it was a two-part thing. Like I ran brakes, and then at some point something broke on them, and I said, I'm just going to take them off, still going riding. And a bunch of people were riding brakeless, and the the things that it teaches you, which I just committed to, was you don't have a brake to tap if you're looping out on manual. So you get really good at keeping that bike balanced with your body positioning and your arms and your hips and everything. And if you loop out, like, you got to spit that bike out and land on your feet or you're going to crash. So it teaches you, like, I learned those skills really, really well. And then for we were street riding. So grinding ledges and grinding rails and things like that, it removed your ability to not commit to something. So I mean, you do a couple run-ups and assess like what you thought the speed was and the line and that sort of thing, and then you're doing it. And so it took away your option to pull the plug and do a whole bunch of run-ups, you know?
I never really thought about it that way. Yeah.
It's the same, like, people dirt jump brakeless now, which is crazy to me, but you know, your only option really is to
send it
off to the side into the woods, or if you're not going to, you know, if you're going to case, you just ditch the bike and run down the landing, which you get good at that too. But anyway, I embraced it for that summer because it, you know, helped me learn those skills, kind of like forced progression almost, you know?
Mm-hmm. So you have, you know, all those dirt jumps in your backyard. Obviously your kids are on the channel, like doing those jumps. How did you like walk them through the training process? Like, obviously you didn't have them like doing the gaps right out the gate, right? You were just like shoving them off the porch and being like, you should have enough speed by the time you get down there.
Man, I held him back is the real answer. Is that was almost like the carrot at the end of the stick, you know, was, you know, because we didn't build, so one of my not first, I was a few in by then. I'd been doing it for like a year at that point on YouTube, but building Milo's line was the first time we had a medium line. So when I built the yard, I built the pump track, and because Milo was 2 years old at the time, I built the pump track, and then I built my jump line, which are, you know, 6 to 7 foot tall lips and 16 to 18 foot gaps and tall and steep. And I wanted them to be intimidating. And so people would, like, when friends would show up, they would either be 100% confident and they'd be chill jumps, because they are if you're a good rider, or you'd say, no, I'm good.
No, I don't want to try it.
I didn't want that middle ground where I'd have friends showing up and be like, oh, I think I can hit this. I hit some tabletops like this. And then it's on me to assess, and because I just don't want a bunch of people coming over and getting hurt. And
right.
So, so the kids grew up, you know, balance bike on the pump track, and then pedal bike on the pump track. And then the pump track, we kind of made one of the straightaways into more jumps. And so then they could start jumping there. And then to be able to hit those jumps, they had to have a certain set of skills, because the first jumps are right out of a corner. So you got to be able to corner, and there's no room to pedal. So you can't just pedal into a jump. So I intentionally kind of thought out all these things to where before you can hit these jumps, you have to be able to pump, because pumping is the fundamentals of using a lip and jumping. You have to be able to corner and pump the corner even. And then we went to, you know, public parks that have tabletops and spent a bunch of time on those. And then we built, it was like the kids trick jump. So, you know, mine is a big, tall step up and huge lip and all this stuff. And right next to it, we built one that was like waist tall and like a 3 foot gap. And so that was the kids' first double that they could start hitting. And so it was super mellow, worked really well.
So you wanted to see them like hitting all these tables and like landing them every time until you threw a gap in.
Totally. Yeah.
So what was like did you feel like you had to like coach them through? Because I think this is something that, you know, a lot of adults struggle with as well, is like you put a gap there and then all of a sudden it's like, no, like they could hit the table that's like 10 feet long, but you put like a 6 foot like gap, and then they're like, you know what I mean? Like, so totally. Like, how did you talk them through like the gap whenever they first started that?
I mean, I remember feeling like that when I was learning how to jump, because I learned how to jump until I went to college. So when I was 18 years old was the first time I started hitting jumps. I was full, you know, cross country up to that point, and
Yeah.
hitting stuff on trails, but there weren't jump trails then. And
Yeah.
so I remember that feeling of, starting to learn how to jump at a BMX track, and the tabletops, fine, you could work up to it. And then the ones that were just straight doubles, like there was one jump at our track called the tower doubles, and there were the big doubles by the announcing tower, and they were terrifying. And so the way that I've kind of related that to them and to other people is spend so much time on tables that you start to just have that feeling of, oh, it doesn't matter if there's something in the middle, and
Yeah.
hit a bunch of different jumps. So you've like hit tabletops with lips that are like this, lips that are like this, and everything in between. So you have the confidence to go there and say, and just, you kind of cancel that out of your head. So you think about like, okay, what are like the risk, kind of the risk management talk I give to the kids are like, okay, this is scary. Okay, what can
Mhm.
happen? What are the bad things that can happen? So
Right.
you're like, okay, I could come up short. That's a problem, right? And so what do we do to avoid that? We follow someone in that's going the right speed, maybe even go a hair fast the first time. What happens if we go too long? Oh, it's not that big of a deal as long as your bike is level. Okay, let's make sure that we're comfortable hitting jumps and staying level off of the lip. So pulling up in a way that we stay level. And that way we don't go, if we do go deep, which is the safer way usually on a double for the first time, that we're at least level so we can land, not like this. And
Right.
in a
Not,
nose,
not nose diving. Right. Yeah.
totally. And so we talk about all the things that they're scared of, and then what we can do to prevent them. And then we just shut off that part of the brain. That's all done. We've handled that. We figured out um, what bad things can happen, how to prevent that. And so now we know the steps that we can take. So, okay, what do we think about? So now it's
Mhm.
time to hit the jump. We don't think about all the bad things anymore. We think about, this is what I need to do to successfully pull this off. And then we do that and we commit to
Yeah.
it. So it's because like you said, if you'd hit it, if the table is there, then there's no difference. You're doing the
Yeah.
same thing either way. The only difference is that you can't ease up to it. You can't, hit it at half speed and land at the top and roll down and start to feel at the lip.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at that point, then you're just following someone that you trust.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
going to
that's
follow me.
definitely a thing there. I mean, I'm not much of a jumper. I was when I was in high school because I had rubber bones and didn't care. You know what I mean? But as an adult, I have definitely like shied away from that stuff just because I got hurt like a few years back, and that really like it stopped me wanting to like push things that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have a buddy that jumps a lot though, and like he towed me into some stuff that we were just having a good day. And I mean, I was following his speed, and I'm like, dude, I hit some tables that were like 15 feet long or something, like, you know what I mean? Like I'd never cleared those before. You know what I mean? And it was
Yeah.
like we hit everything on the whole jump line. And I just remember being like blown away. But when I tried it like a week later by myself, I didn't know the speed, right? So I just like cased them all again. So like having somebody like you said that you trust for sure, man. It's like
And what
definitely
was the
makes
other difference, right? Like you were feeling good, so you had confidence, right?
yeah, yeah.
And you're like, I'm going to follow him. I'm feeling good. It's going to work out. And when
You
you're there,
know, honestly, yeah, that day I don't even feel like I was like I think I was so like focused on just keeping up with him, like that I wasn't like because I wasn't worried about the jumps. Like I'm never really worried about like the lip like bucking me or something like that. Like I know how to jump that way. It's just like I don't know the right speed to like make it land. You know what I mean? So I'll be
yeah,
coming up and I'll be like, oh, I'm going too fast. And then I hit the brakes and I'm like, nope, cased it. You know, like so
yeah.
so like with him that day, I was just like really like we were just chasing each other all day long. So when we got to that point, I was just trying to keep him like the same distance. And I think because of that, then he was setting the speed for me. So it was just like boom, boom, boom. And I was so stoked. It was like, holy shit, dude, I've never done that. That was sick.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's something all of my jump videos with the kids where I'm taking them into different stuff. I cut out a bunch of stuff where I'm like kind of saying it over and over to them to make sure that they are confident. But I
Yeah.
always include that to where I'm like, are you confident? Do you feel ready to hit these? And Are you psyched to do this? Are you excited, or are you more scared and nervous? Because if you're scared and nervous, let's just wait another day. And so I it's kind of the opposite of everything else on mountain bike YouTube, and just general population, which is the full send it mindset, of oh, you got this, bro, go hit it. And I'm like, or tomorrow, like there's no making you do it today. So I think playing the long game is the big move there. And just like I said, you figure out like what all the bad stuff is, forget about it, and then like answer those questions. So if you just were like show up and you're just confident, that's more like arrogance, right? But if you think it through, answer all those questions, and then you come up with a plan for here's how I'm going to do this successfully, then you can hit it with confidence, because you're like, this is my plan and this is what I'm going to do. And so that's really like the last thing. I'm like, all right, Milo, Owen, you confident? Are you feel good about this? And they're like, yeah, for sure. Then I'm like, all right, let's do this. Follow me and just commit to it. And but yeah, I held like Owen was begging me. With Milo, we built it. So we kind of hit him one at a time as we were building him, and he worked his way through the line. Owen watched the whole thing because he's 2.5 years younger. And then all that summer, he's like, I want to hit him. I'm ready. And we'd go somewhere and I'd be like, I don't think you're quite ready yet. Like, you're shredding. You're a really good rider. But like, there's no reason to rush into these because they're steep, they're consequential. There's a whole, like, there's no reason to get hurt on these when you can spend more time and develop those skills. And then when you do hit them, it'll work out great. And it did.
And as a father to like, or a parent for that matter, to like watch your kid get hurt is like, it's like the worst feeling,
It's the last thing I want. And
right.
Then when you're hurt, you can't ride. And, Milo's he broke his elbow when he was 9, I think. Went over the bars on a small jump that he had built himself. I never really shared it, or like but I have a video of it and everything. And he basically built his own lip and wanted to hit it. It just like, I think back of like, I wish I could have changed that. But he wanted to do it himself, and I wanted to respect that and let him learn. And I just didn't think he was going to hit it the way that he did. But it sucked because, he had time off the bike. But again, looking at the positives of it, he was
probably a pretty damn good life lesson.
Totally. He was so confident at the time. We were going to the bike park and he was shredding, but like almost recklessly, to where his mind, having never been injured, he's like, I can do anything. And partly that's, for good or bad, my fault, because I was choosing
like gatekeeping him.
Confidence, because that's important to build confidence, but he hadn't had anything to set it back. And I was like, it's just going to happen with riding. You have these, you grow and progress, and then you have a crash and get hurt and knocks your confidence back, and then you build back, and then you go higher, and you're kind of like in this building growth chart with your riding and versus your confidence, your skills versus confidence,
Your skills confidence matrix. That's what it is,
right? I think it was good because he is super dialed and confident. And when he tells me he's ready for something and he can hit something at 13 years old now, I totally trust him that he's thought about it. He knows very well the consequences because he's got a couple broken bones now, and he's, he knows that they're real. And so he also knows how to take the steps and put in the time to learn the skills, do the things he wants to do. But it sucks. It's the worst seeing your kid hurt.
It's just like, you can't take the pain away for him. And especially if it's something that you had any part to do with, you're just like, oh man.
Yeah. I mean, they've grown up in it, and it goes from when they're on the push bike, you're scared of them falling and scraping a knee or hitting their face on something. And then, their skills get better and you're less worried about them in some ways, but then you're more worried about them in other ways. And, and as they get faster and stronger and are hitting bigger stuff, the stakes are higher, more consequential with bigger stuff. And I mean, even last year we went to the Burn Park opening, and I can't. There's a clickbait trail. Anyway, the big jump trail. It's got a pretty good sized drop at the beginning, and I was filming something with Seth, and the boys are. I'm like, just keep warming up, and we'll figure it out, and then we'll go work through this stuff together. And like 2 hours later, Owen's like, I'm like, you want to go work through that drop now, Owen? And he's like, oh, I got it. I've been hitting it for 45 minutes. And so they're kind of left to their own devices. They'll go, he'll follow row off of stuff, and
they're kids, man. You know what I mean? Like we were there, so.
Like I'm now learning to have control, like where I feel like it's really important and something that they really need to know, and then also giving them the freedom to ride to their level and to learn stuff with their friends. And so it's because we're letting them ride our local trails a bit, just the kids now, and it's scary because I know that what they're doing, and they're going to hit jumps and they're going to do this stuff, but that's what we were doing at that age too. And my parents didn't ride, and so like I didn't know. We were learning it all on our own. I know that at this point, at 11 and 13 years old, I've told them everything that I could tell them just about, and so they're at least fundamentally in a really good place to go learn stuff on their own.
Yeah, you have to be able to go out there and learn that stuff, though. Like, there's a bunch of like life lessons of being out on your own, that those situations like really teach you, that you have to go through. Like you have to know how to like pull your shit together and get yourself home when you get hurt. You know what I mean? Like you'll know, like when your buddy knocks the wind out of him, that he's not actually dying, and you're like, dude, it sucks right now, but you're gonna be able to breathe in a minute, like, and you got to kind of go like through those things, and I think that giving kids the opportunity to make mistakes, like, is at least one thing that we got like in spades in the 80s, what I mean? Like, and I don't know if that was like, maybe that was, the pendulum was a little too far then or something like that, but like we definitely, I think it's something that you see a lot of children don't have nowadays,
Yeah, absolutely. That's like having them, like, I mean, that when you asked why we live here, one of the biggest, like, number one things was being able to ride from our house on trails. And the fact that I can let them just say, okay, see you in a few hours, have fun, is one of the, I mean, I feel so lucky to be able to do that. Because a lot of people can't. And it's cool seeing a lot more trails being built in urban centers and around places, but you're totally right. It's, now that Milo's 13, learning how to parent differently from when they're smaller, you're kind of just like, don't do this. And you're trying to keep them from dying. And now, once you get more freedom, it is kind of a different mindset of, okay, it's okay to make mistakes. And, when there's really dangerous things, like, I hate when they're riding on the road to get places, even kind of in the country on smaller roads. It still terrifies me, but
especially nowadays with, teenagers with cell phones, or adults with cell phones for that matter, like it's just really easy for that, like, things to go wrong there.
Letting them make mistakes, learn from it. And that's what I've been like all this week. I've been saying, hey, you whatever it was, like doing stuff around the house, dumb stuff, like their brain isn't developed. Teenagers, I was talking to our middle school counselor at our school, and she was like, there's that part of their brain that gives you reasoning and whatever, it's just not developed yet. And so when a 13-year-old boy says, I don't know why I did that, that's a valid answer. They actually don't know why. You and I still do that sometimes, I don't know why I did that. That was dumb. Because it was cool.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And so they've been going out, and they'll, like, him and his two best friends, and they'll go ride for 3 hours, and they'll get a flat tire and they'll fix it. And then someone else will have this problem. And I love hearing those stories, and they'll come back and like, this broke, and he had a flat, and then we had to use 3 plugs and things together. I'm like, that is the best,
Yeah. It's just It's good stuff. It's good stuff for them to learn. I mean, even as a kid, for me, like I grew up in Pennsylvania, so it would be like you'd go out and like walk around the woods and freaking get in trouble that way. You know what I mean? Like God knows what you were looking for, what you were doing. But what that taught me was like I can navigate through like situations like really well. You know, like when I was in the military, we would have these like we would do these like night nav kind of like exercises to make sure that everybody had their shit together, right? So they would like plop everybody out in the middle of the woods at like 9 o'clock at night, and then they give you all these points that you got to go to, and you'd have to get there. And dude, I'd be back in the barracks and drinking by like 2 hours. You know what I mean? And there would be other guys that would like be showing up when the sun rose the next day. You know, like they were out there all night, you know, and it was like, I mean, granted, I wasn't running around the woods in the dark, but it just like that time out, you know, as a kid growing up and having to pay attention to what's around you and where you're at and where you're going, like those are like lifelong things where it's like I'm out in the middle of the mountains on a ride. I'm like, no, I know where I'm at. You know, like if something happens, I know that peak over there, and in between that is like where I need to be. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're definitely good lessons. Definitely good lessons. So
yeah, it's the best. And you know, it's like the backyard's expanding with Milo now, and we'll sit there, and when we go snowmobiling or splitboarding or something like that, I've taught him, you know, okay, we're going to go here. We don't just go out and splitboard this. Like we need to study maps to understand where we're at. What are the slope angles around us? What's the avalanche forecast say? And all that stuff. And then in the summer, we do the same thing. We apply all those same tools. So we're like, okay, this is your kind of A route where you want to go. You know, what's your backup plan if something happens? How do you get out of there? Where are you? What else is around you? If you have more time, where would you explore to? And what's the weather going to do? And, you know, what kit do you need to have for this ride? You know, if you're going to ride the super close trails, you need like this kit with, you know, minimum. And when you go out further, what do you need to add to the kit so that you're safe and prepared for stuff? And because at that point, you know, you need to understand if you're out there and something happens, it's minimum an hour for someone to come help you. So even, you know, who knows how much it gets into his head, but like thinking about what you ride from a risk management perspective, when you're an hour out there with another kid, is there cell reception? You know?
Yeah.
So it's,
what are you going to do if you don't have anything to drink? You know?
Yeah. How much water do you need to bring for this ride, and how much food?
Yeah.
You know, one of his friends is diabetic, so they have to, you know, count for that too. And it's such like, it's dream life lessons for him to be seeking out on his own. And
I think it's good for them though. I mean, like I was thinking about this the other day for some reason, like even with my kids when they got older, and there's a lot of other parents with technology today. You can like track your kids and all this and that. And I wouldn't do that. And I would tell them like, look, I'm not doing this to you guys because I want you guys to have the opportunity to like make the decision whether or not you're going to screw up. Yeah. And maybe sometimes you get away with it, but if you get caught, then you're going to know like, this is the situation, right? You know, but like, I feel like, you know, some of that is like, some of that getting away with shit is freaking part of growing up too, you know, like going out and maybe like your kids doing some jump that you've probably told them not to do, or like doing some extra loop that they know they shouldn't be going out that far. Like those are things that's part of like growing up and having fun with like your life.
Yes.
And maybe, you know, so, yeah. So you mentioned Burn Peak. I saw Seth posted something the other day. There's some new trails over there you're gonna head out for.
Yeah, I'm heading out there actually for the grand opening of those in later in June. I just booked my tickets, and so they opened the backcountry trails up higher. I really don't know much about them. Although I did see Alex just put out a video on them. I haven't had a chance to watch yet. So I
haven't checked it out either.
A whole upper section of backcountry trails, and I remember they were talking about it. So definitely stoked to check out his video and see what before I go there. And study up on those, but they're supposed to be super fun.
How did your friendship with Seth happen?
So that happened when, so Bryce Winker was the Diamondback marketing manager and team manager. Mm-hmm. And he was, I don't know how, but like he was super into, like he found Seth's channel and was like watching mountain bike YouTube when, I mean, he sent Seth a bike when I think he had 30 or 40, 50,000 subscribers. So
yeah,
kind of early days. And he was like, this guy is awesome. And he just loved what Seth was doing. And he's like, hey, can we send you a bike? And so they started sending him bikes, and pretty quickly started to, grow a relationship there between Seth and Diamondback. And then we met pretty quickly, and were instant. Like it was like stepbrothers. Like, did we just become best friends? It was awesome. Like we just had the best time together, and we're just laughing the whole time, and same sense of humor, same work ethic, same like kind of worldview on stuff. And so it was through Diamondback, but immediately when we met, we were like instant friends, and talk every day. And how long have you
been riding with Diamondback?
I started with Diamondback in 2011. So this is year 12 or 13.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy. So, more than half of my career now. And it's really kind of evolved over the years too, and changed in different ways. But a lot of the same people are still there. And it's been awesome working with them.
Yeah. So at this point, like your YouTube channel is pretty successful. How many subscribers do you have?
We're over 200,000 now.
Right. So pretty big audience there. Is like your YouTube kind of income becoming like more equal to like your sponsorship kind of income, or is it like, how's that work out?
Yeah, it is pretty close. I mean, it ebbs and flows, as you know.
Yeah.
Based on how much I'm uploading, how they're performing, and how many advertisers and their ad rate and everything. But it is doing really well, and people are really psyched on what I'm doing, and it has given me a bit more freedom too. To not that I ever rode for anyone that I didn't want to ride for, but even a bit more freedom with that, to where I can kind of pick and choose who I really like working with and like their products and that sort of thing. So it's been really cool from that perspective. And, Seth told me for years to get on YouTube before I did. It was probably 3 years of him saying, you got to get on YouTube. What are you doing? You got to get on YouTube. And, for me, it was things were working great without being on YouTube. And by that, I mean, like using the traditional model that we had been doing as professional athletes. So, you get budget for a trip, and then you go do this really cool adventure, and you got a filmer and a photographer. Someone writes a story for it, and you got magazine articles and kind of that traditional route. And then the video that, someone else would film and edit, who's way better than me at it, would, then it would go on. I mean, there were, like, you remember back then, it was like everywhere was hosting stuff. So maybe it was on Pink Bike's Player or Vital MTB's Player, or maybe a company itself had its own video player, and or maybe it was on Vimeo. And so it was just the revenue side of it wasn't a thing until, it's kind of slowly started to be. But it was basically making content that people could connect with and watch. And that was the bottom line. So if I did a bike packing trip somewhere and we made a cool video about it, you just wanted to get eyes on it, and you wanted people to see it. And so I finally got on YouTube when it was the summer before COVID. And that was when it was really just, that's where people were watching their content. So I thought, my job as an athlete is to kind of connect with consumers, basically. Like when you really brew it down to why bike companies are paying me as a rider, it's to connect with consumers and tell my stories using their products and share their products in cool scenarios and doing cool stuff and connect with them.
Yeah.
And so I finally realized that YouTube is where, you know, the majority of people are going to see their mountain bike content. And so it's like, okay, let me learn how to do this. And
did you look at it as like additional income, or did you look at it as like, oh, I just got to do this because like that'll keep my sponsors happy? Or did you look at it as, man, I feel like this could become like the whole thing all the time?
I didn't think that was what would happen. I knew there's potential because you see what Seth was doing. And at that point in 2018 or 19, it was, you know, he was making a living off of it at that point, and getting huge views and that sort of thing. So I knew it was possible, but, you know, I also saw what Seth put into it, which was 1,000%, you know? So I knew that the moment that I decided to do YouTube, that was going to take all of my time and energy if I wanted to do it right. And I don't like doing stuff like, you know, halfway. You know, go on, and if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. So I started just by kind of learning the ropes and starting to make my own videos, and they're still all on the channel. And when I was just looking back the other night, and I'm like, man, I was terrible at talking on camera and like the quality of it. But I was learning the ropes and learning how to do it. And
I think it's cool to leave that stuff up there. I know that Seth, like, he like curates his old videos, like takes down what he doesn't feel like is like on brand anymore and stuff like that. But I feel like it's cool to have it there as like, this is the way it happened. You know what I mean? And
I actually, a couple nights ago, I scrolled way down on Mr. Beast's page because I was like, I'd heard some story about when he counted 100,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did he make a video out of that? I'm just curious. And so I scrolled way down, all that old stuff's on there. And it's hilarious to see where he came from. And like, I didn't even watch it, but I think I saw it's like 2 hours and like it's hours long or something, or maybe 2 days. I don't even know. But like, I'm just 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm guessing.
Right.
Because I was like, if it's a 10-minute video, I want to see how he told this story that he counted to. Was it a time lapse or? And then when I saw the watch time, I'm like, oh, he just sat there and counted and ran the camera. But anyway,
but I mean, he was putting his time in, though. You know what I mean? And like, it's interesting. You know, I've listened to a bunch of interviews with him, and I mean, he just was convinced from like 8 years old or whatever it was when he started that he was going to be a YouTuber, and everybody in his life was like, you have like no followers and you've been doing this for like 5 years. It's not gonna happen, dude.
Like 8 years, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I was curious how it was going to go. And you know, some of the older videos were stuff that were, you know, produced through like with, you know, filmer and editor and everything. And I was, as a known pro mountain biker with a long career at the time, I was like, oh, this should help. And I'm sure it helped because people knew the name when they saw it. But yeah, I got no views, and it was a long road for me as well. And
Jeff Lenowski said that to me when he started.
Yeah.
He said he was like, dude, I thought I was going to get on YouTube and like blow up. And he was like, it didn't matter that I was Jeff Lenowski. You know, like, he's like, I could walk next to you at Sea Otter and they would be like, hey, there's Robert. You know, like.
And you look at, you know, snowboarders and all these pro snowboarders, like the biggest names, the gnarliest riders ever. And they've got, you know, really small YouTube channels, and it's a different thing, and you have to learn the craft. And it was the same thing when I, you know, was into riding. I wanted to learn everything about it, and I want to be the best I could. When I was the best in my small area, then I would get to, you know, move somewhere else, or, you know, just continue, like, surround myself with people that were better than me at riding. And that was how I got it to work. And then, you know, same with slope style, same with everything else. So, you know, when it came to YouTube, I just study it constantly. And every video, I think, how can I make the next one better? And when I'm making the next one, it's, you know, okay, how can I make my sound better, or my video, or my story, or whatever it is? Like, even learning editing tricks, because you can only learn so much at once, but I try to learn at least a couple new things every single video. And
Yeah.
I'm sure I heard one of the Mr. Beast things that you did too, but one of the things he said was, make 100 videos. They're all going to suck, but you'll think by the time you get to 100, you're making great videos, and still sucks. And then, make 100 more, and then you'll be getting somewhere. And, except for some people that have, production background. And, we've seen that with people that, I had a bit of a shortcut because I was surrounded by people that were filming, and I was part of productions to where they'd make an edit and I'd look at it and kind of give some input and that sort of thing. So I was part of the process for a long time, but
or you would know like how they set their cameras or how they followed you when you were doing things, or like, so you had at least like a baseline in that aspect, where like me, when I started, it was like, I have zero idea except for like try to emulate what I see on TV or other channels, like,
and it's super hard. And, I just counted them up, and I'm like 70 full length, YouTube videos now, or videos on YouTube. And like, that's insane to me too, that like the fact that I've filmed and edited 70 like 10 to 15 minute videos, that is so much work. And I still, like, I looked at videos 2 years ago, I'm like, the story was there enough that they're still getting good views. And, I had studied enough of that, but technically me filming and editing, I was terrible. And I'm better now. But then I compare it to other stuff, and like you watch a Casey Neistat video or something, and you're like, I'm still horrible. And like very much in the beginning stages when I watch something like that, and so I just always try to think about how I can keep doing better. And, it's cool that it's bringing in revenue now, and it's cool that it's getting seen. But I think the coolest part, and kind of what I said from the beginning, was, if nothing else, I've learned new skills of filming and editing. I'll have awesome videos that I made documenting my life riding and my life with my kids, family, and traveling. And so, it's cool when something goes off. Like, the number one reason that it's cool when a video does well is that lots of people are seeing it and hearing my message, which is my unique take on mountain biking, on parenting, on jumping, and me saying what's important to me, and people coming to see that. And, because I just look at it, I mean, I'm kind of probably rambling, but a lot of what kept me off of YouTube initially was I came from this world of making actual like movies, DVDs, where it's a project and thought out, and we're like crafting these video parts and all this stuff. And I think there were a lot of really good YouTubers, but there were a lot of people that were just like standing there talking to the camera, like throughout their day, like vloggers, not even in mountain biking, but just YouTube kind of had this name for, it just wasn't what I wanted to do. And then I think it was Seth that was like, well, don't do that. Like, do what you want to do and make what you want to make. And I was like, oh, right. I can just make whatever I want. And and then it got really appealing, because when we were making these big production ones, it was not only does it, like, you do this trip that takes a while, and then 2 months later you get the first draft, and then the magazine article's coming out, and then when you're trying to time the video to come out when the article does, and then you got to like send emails to all the outlets so that they put it on at the same time. And then like if Bike Mag accidentally puts it up before Vital, someone's
right.
And it was this whole deal. And Seth's like, and I'm like, how's it work for you? How do you put out your videos? He's like, oh, I click upload. And I'm like, that's it? And then people watch. He's like, yep.
That's
like,
it.
That sounds, I mean, obviously there's a little bit more than that, but I'm like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. I always say that my last video is my best video. And there will be some that I make that I'll be like, dude, there's no way. Like, this is a masterpiece. And it'll be like, I'm always going to love this video. And then if you go back and watch it like 6 months later, you're like, oh, I should have edited that. Oh, I should have done some color correcting. You're like, there's all these other things that you're like, you totally didn't even know that you weren't doing until now, and so Yeah, I definitely I enjoy the several different parts of it. You know, I enjoy the creativity part. I think is probably the number one thing for me. Like I just like making things.
Yeah.
And I think that I I definitely like enjoy the community and like I don't know, the serotonin from something going off or people commenting and you know, like I definitely get off on that. And but I think overall it's just like that creating something and then also like documenting my life part, you know, where it's like at the very end of the day, regardless of how many people liked my video or how many people subscribed, like I could get hit by a bus tomorrow and my grandkids could still know who I am by like all these videos that my kids could show them. You know what I mean? Like,
and I don't mean to sound negative about people that were just straight vlogging and holding a camera.
no, not at all.
Got millions of views, so tons of people connect with that. What I mean is that wasn't what I watched. That's
Yeah.
what wasn't like how I enjoyed spending my time, so I couldn't relate to it, and it wasn't for
people,
me.
People used to tell me all the time that I should do YouTube, and in my mind, YouTube was for like cat videos. So like I would always be like, no, I don't want to go on YouTube. Why would I want to go on YouTube? And it really was yeah, exactly. And it really wasn't until Brian started making videos and I used to chat on this forum MTBR.
Yeah.
And he was like posting his videos in there to like get people to go look at it. And because he was from Northern California and I was always in that forum, I would click on his videos and I was like, this is pretty cool. You know, like, okay, maybe I'll check this out, you know, and here we are, right? So
totally. Oh, I mean, I had to have a huge mindset shift too. Like when I stopped so when I was competing in slopestyle, it was, and the whole first part of my career, it was all you care about is what like Bear Claw or like the best rider in the world thinks about you. Like, when I put out this video part, is he going to be stoked on it? Like, are the other top riders? Because that's how it has to be if you're trying to push the sport and if you're trying to push the boundaries of riding. And that's what I was doing. And then when I stopped competing, it was, okay, I want to, that was when I switched to Diamondback as well. And so I was like, okay, it's a great time for a fresh start. Here's what I want to do. I want to make videos and magazine articles like riding and camping in the woods and doing stuff that regular people that ride bikes can relate to, because no one can relate to hitting huge jumps. And, you know, it's kind of inspirational or aspirational, one of the two. But basically, like
something
that's crazy. Yeah. You're like, it's like X Games or something. You're like, that's cool. But it doesn't necessarily make me want to go ride or make me want to go do a, you know, double backflip. But if I show a really cool adventure somewhere, like that's what I want to watch when I watch mountain biking. I want to see people out riding in the middle of nowhere, adventuring and exploring and doing cool stuff. And so that's kind of what I pitched. And so it was that mindset shift of who am I making videos and content and that sort of thing for? And realizing kind of how I can help get people into mountain biking and grow the sport. It's by doing stuff that they can relate to and makes them want to go do that too. And so when I kind of shifted that mindset of, I no longer care. Like, you want their respect still from the top riders or other people, but you're not trying to like impress them anymore. And you're trying to connect with other riders. It's a whole different way to think about it. And that's what I think is never was possible before YouTube, is that if you wanted to be a pro rider, if you wanted to be someone in, you know, on video or in bike industry or whatever, you had to go win contests and you had to be the best rider in the world. And then you could, if you were smart and worked hard, you could end up like being a film rider and shooting in videos and things like that. That was the only way in. You had to go win races or win contests and that sort of thing. And once YouTube happened, that like you could just make cool content, cool videos that people like to watch, and people could connect with all kinds of different people. And so I think it really did help grow the sport and give anybody that mountain bikes, there's someone on YouTube that they can watch videos that they relate to. They're like, oh, this person is like me, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's been really cool to see all these different riders start channels and make videos and to learn from, like, again, this was through mentorship from Seth. Like, when out before YouTube, you're almost like threatened when other riders are doing something cool, because you're like, oh, I was going to go to that spot and make a video, and now I can't because this magazine ran a place on it, so we can no longer go to this place. It's ruined. It's off the list. And Seth's like, no, everybody makes videos, and like, just because I made a video on Bentonville doesn't mean that you can't make a video on Bentonville and some other people, because they're all going to be different perspectives.
Yeah, everybody's story is going to be different.
Yeah, and people will watch them all. People will be like, I want to go to Bentonville, and they'll watch 10 videos on riding Bentonville. And so, like, it's so cool to be friends with everybody that, I don't know everybody that makes mountain bike videos on YouTube, but friends with a lot of the crew now. And and like, we're not threatened by each other, and we all support each other, and we get to do stuff together, and it's better for everybody. It's awesome.
Yeah. What do you think about, I mean, now that you've been a pro, like, sponsored rider and a content creator, how do you think that companies should be handling their marketing money to, like, appropriately, like, kind of get their word out?
That's a great question. I think they have the ability now to target specifically what their products or their bikes are for, and work with people that kind of that identify with that, and in a way that they couldn't before. It was, you had to run say you're making free ride stuff, you'd run stuff on like Pink Bike and Decline magazine before it went away, or Free Hub now, or if you were like trail riding stuff, you'd be like, okay, we're targeting like this person, so we got Bike Mag and we got like this website or whatever it is. And so now they can, I don't think a lot of them are taking advantage of it, though, honestly. I think there's so many marketing managers in the bike industry that I don't want to say it in a way like to burn any bridges or anything, but just like, I don't know, like, there's just, I see a lot of this they kind of came up in their specific
racing only
of racing or whatever, and wanted to be a pro racer, but didn't quite make it. And then they're kind of stuck in that world. And I think it's companies that are open to just working with different people for different purposes even. And
I think that the companies should be like, I think that if they're sponsoring a racer, I think that they should have somebody on their team that is helping that racer do their social media, so that the racer can work on being a racer. I think it's really unfair to ask somebody to be like a podium winning racer to have a successful YouTube channel and Instagram, and like, cause like, I know how much work it takes to run a YouTube channel, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of freaking work. So if you wanted me to do all of that and like podium, like, I feel like it's like one or the other, you know what I mean? So
it's hard to run a YouTube channel and also keep up on Instagram and TikTok and everything else too, and all the other things. So it is really hard. And I think it's awesome. Like, they should support all the racers and everything else. Like, there's room for everybody. And but I think, like, I don't know, say if a company is like, we're a race company, we're just focused on sponsoring racers, you're like, that's great. But do you think maybe that your, target market at this point is a lot of people that get stuff on pro forums that work at shops?
Yeah.
Like, should you also, like, I think there's a disconnect where they think where they're missing the point that a lot of people that mountain bike still want maybe the best thing that is being made for racers, but that you can market to them in ways other than just racers too. So you have the racers to prove that it's the best out there. And then you can also have people in YouTube space that can kind of relate that to normal terms of, here's how I set this up as kind of a normal trail rider.
Yeah.
And it's still the best suspension out there or the best wheels out there or whatever it is. And so smart companies are starting to figure it out. And
it's really interesting to me, the difference between, you know, some of the companies that you can tell that really get it and some that are more race focused, I guess you could say. And to each their own. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's your company. You can do what the hell you want. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really care. I just think that I think if I was starting a brand, I would probably lean more into the social media side, just because like the connection that they have with their audience is so different, you know. But I understand that on the other hand, like, racing, like, if you want to say that your like bike is a really good bike, like, a really great way to prove that is it to be winning races, you know, and be like doing those like videos with sponsored riders like you that are like, hey, here's that bike in the freaking Andes, like going down some crazy shit. Like, wow, you know, like, okay. So, I mean, it definitely has its place, but I feel like that social media side is like, you're really connecting to the average person on that aspect of like, let's just say some guy went out on a ride with his buddy and he's like, I'm going to get into mountain biking, and he's got a family, and he gets on YouTube and he sees you and your whole family's like all riding bikes together. And he's like, oh, wow, a Diamondback. I could get a Diamondback. And like, they got ones for my kid and they got ones for me. And this guy's like going all over the world and doing it with his whole family. So they must be good. Like, it just like really like equates over. He wouldn't go watch like Richie Rue just smash some run and be like, you know what? I think I'm buying Yetis for the family. You know?
Yeah, I think it, and I think you know, the best marketing strategy is to have some of both. So that you can,
exactly.
Yeah, prove it and have people relate to it. But it's I think community that is built around especially the long form YouTube videos is something pretty special. And you know, with like, people are seeing crazy numbers on TikTok now, and I'm not sure that it's building community around those creators necessarily. And
I will say that I
funnel things in, and you know, in some ways it certainly is, but and it's good because those crazy numbers, it's reaching people that don't mountain bike too. And maybe that's a chance to show them that mountain biking is cool. So
I'll say this, man. I noticed at Sedona this year was the first time that it really like hit me hard, was all the guys that are guys and girls that are doing the short form kind of like reels and Instagram stuff. They were like, there was a lot of people walking up and walking by them and being like, oh my God, it's normal. Or, oh my God, it's, you know, whoever, like they're definitely building some kind of community, you know, and
those guys for sure. And I'm not like, when I was saying that, I'm not like, Seabass and Joe, Colorado kid, like they are totally,
and I wasn't insinuating that you were saying that they weren't, but it was the first, like, because to me, the first, like when I was watching that platform, let's just say that way of creating videos come up, to me, I just felt like it's like, oh, somebody watches it, they scroll by, they laugh, they scroll by. Like, when I go on Instagram and I'm looking at reels, like, very seldomly am I like, this guy's hilarious, I'm gonna like subscribe or like follow, you know what I mean? It's like you laugh, maybe you hit the like button, and then you roll on by, you know what I mean? So like, it was real easy for me to think that this wasn't really building like a community. But whenever I was like standing there at Sedona and it's just like boom boom boom, like people are just walking by, And it's like, wow, this is crazy. And then you start thinking about it though, and it's like their numbers are like Joe Colorado, like he has so many videos that have over 1 million views. You know what I mean? Like if you had that many videos on YouTube with over 1 million views, you'd be like rolling around in a Lamborghini. You know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
like, but and okay, so maybe financially it's not hitting that way, but it is definitely giving them some exposure. It's very interesting to see this like new way, you know?
Yeah, I think it's and I think why it's connecting with those guys is they're really consistent, and their quality and their cadence of posting and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
And it's a FaceTime thing, so they're actually, you're seeing the person and they're making you laugh, and so you are connecting with them. And
yeah.
if you're seeing like riding clip, it's, and like you said, you'll see 10 reels in a minute or whatever, like you just
Yeah.
swipe and swipe and swipe. And the difference with the long form is like people are signing up for a 10-minute ride and
Yeah.
storytelling, and so that's where I think that's done traditionally such a good way of connecting people with the people they like to watch, and why it builds that community. And
Yeah.
I think the way that they're doing theirs, which I don't know how to do that,
Yeah.
and their comedic timing and writing
Yeah.
and how they do all that is incredible. But I think that's why that's connecting more, and you're seeing so many, like, yeah, what they're doing is awesome. And
I'm curious to see like how that platform changes over time. You know, like YouTube's changed a bunch. Like there was a time when like if you were doing YouTube bike videos, like they had to be like 3 minutes long. You know what I mean? And like then it was like, you know, maybe 15 minutes. Now there's some people that do like 30-minute videos and some people that do 8-minute videos. You know, it's like it's kind of like all over the place. And you know, there's like I feel like it's like kind of gotten like compartmentalized. Like there's like Yum Yum is a very successful channel that is like all reviews, you know, and I think I'm curious to see like right now it feels to me that the short content like has to be funny. You know, that's really what like the standard is, at least right now. And I'm curious to see like does that platform like change into other things like how to's or different things like that where it's like educational or something like other than funny.
yeah,
I'm just curious. Like I don't know. Like it's just I think like logically it's gonna change in waves. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'm trying to figure it out as well.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I wish I could just make long form YouTube videos and only do that. I would love to
yeah,
do. I love filming, getting the clips, putting everything together, and then I hate the first part of editing where you like watch all the clips and keyword, and
yeah,
I absolutely hate that part. And then when it starts to come together, I love it again. And the last, the final hours of an edit where you're like, ditch this, cut that, don't need it, and you're like tightening this thing up into this.
yeah.
That's really exciting, and I get super fired up doing that. And then like having this finished product that I'm really proud
Uh,
of. I love that. And
the anticipation of like my video is done and I have to wait to like tomorrow morning to hit go is like it's really tough. You know, it's like, oh man, I just want to let it go right now. I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, like,
totally. Yeah, and then with the short form stuff, I'm trying to learn how to do that as well. And
yeah,
I've had a handful go really big, and on one platform or another, go over like several 100,000 or a million, and I haven't done anything funny specifically,
yeah,
but it's all been stuff that I've put together from long form videos, to where I take,
yeah,
on one, like for a couple of videos, I cut it into like a series, because there were like TikToks, like where it was like episode 1 or like whatever they call it. To where it would be like a 5-part series, and people
yeah,
are,
yeah,
so I tried that. Some of those did well. And now I've started trying like, okay, why don't I just make the whole storyline into a minute and make it,
yeah.
or whatever it is. And some of those
I,
have done well, and then others haven't. So like, I really haven't figured out like the one thing I'm like, oh, this is
yeah,
totally working. And
yeah. I've been playing around with it, I think, just from like a like purely like just I like creating things kind of thing, you know, like there's been a couple of rides where I like, hey, I'm gonna wear my my full face on this one ride just so that I can have a chin mount, and I'm purely like recording them on a GoPro at vertical, and I'm only gonna like turn this ride into like a clip, you know. And as like there's that, and then there's other ones where I'm like, oh, I've kind of thought the story out that I kind of want to tell, and it's interesting to like, in some ways it makes it feel like I'm editing a regular story, because I kind of go through this whole like similar process, but at the end of it, like, it only took me an hour to do, like, to edit it instead of like 3 days, you know.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think I like having that room to breathe on YouTube to tell the longer story, and so that's where I'm struggling with, like, well, what really matters and how do I tell that? Because you still need like a beginning, middle, and end, and you still have to have that with the short form, like have the hook and then the meat of it, and then the kind of nice ending or whatever to sum it up. And
Yeah.
so I struggled to figure out how to do that the best that I can, and I hold myself to like I said, as I up the level, then I hold myself to that level, and even on Instagram and TikTok or whatever, I still, like, I'm scared to post something that I don't feel is good enough. But then sometimes with the short form stuff, I'm like, I'm probably putting way too much into this, and I could just say
Yeah.
something stupid and like have a riding clip, and people would love that. And so,
Yeah.
like, well, what is it that I want to put out into the world? And
Yeah.
I'm a classic overthinker, so I'm
Yeah.
always running around in circles in my head trying to figure out what to do. But
I've noticed that, like, sometimes when I'm filming some other stuff, like for a long form, I'll think about like how I have the shot lined up, so that like if I wanted to change, like use part of this as a short, like, okay, I have me in the middle of the frame and not like, you know what I mean, or like
oh
something
yeah,
like that, where like,
I definitely changed my framing now. Almost
mhm,
every shot I'm shooting. I mean, I shoot everything in 4K, so I have some room anyway.
yeah,
But even for all my long form videos, I've started thinking about that now. Like, okay, is this shot like the shot I want for horizontal for the long form?
yeah,
Is it framed in a way that I'll be able to cut this into a vertical? And
yeah,
so, like, I'm thinking about it more now because, like it or not, it's a part of the ecosystem, and
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
it's a way to connect with people, and like for whatever I'm like, the whole thing, I'm doing this to share my views on mountain biking and my experiences with the world. And
yeah,
if you're not, if people aren't watching, then they're not getting to see that. So again, like, that's, outside of everything else, monetarily, it's
yeah,
your message isn't getting out there. And so that's where I'm always trying to think, here's what I want to say. Now, how can I say it in a way that works with the way things are set up, and is the way that I'm proud of it at the end, and I feel
yeah.
good about putting it to the world.
What do you think? What do you think it is that made your channel get 200,000 subscribers? Like, was there a point where you were like, oh, I think I got this figured out, and that's kind of like you just start replicating that, or what? What do you think it is that why do you think people hit subscribe on your channel?
I think they feel good after they watch the videos. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest thing, is that they're going to learn something about mountain biking they probably didn't know before, but they're not how-to videos.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna feel good at the end. They're gonna, come along for a cool adventure. They're gonna build something in the yard with me. Like, I always try to be kind of include the viewer, like they're part
Mm-hmm.
of it, and I want them to feel like they're actually there hanging out with us when we're doing whatever
Yeah.
we're doing. And so they're gonna feel like they saw something cool, did something cool, learn, kind of felt those emotions. And I really try to, I spend way too much time on the music to kind of get the feel that I want. And
Yeah.
um and
People
so
don't understand how long it takes to pick music. It sounds ridiculous, but oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I've spent, like, I just spent an hour on freaking Epidemic trying to find the right song.
video on my channel is a minimum of 2 hours searching for music till I find the right one. And, I'll download maybe 15 that are maybes, and then find the right feel for there, throw it in the timeline and start to work with it. And like, oh, that's not right, and ditch it. And it means a lot to me. And obviously means a lot to you too. It doesn't to everybody, and that's fine too. But
I love it when it like accidentally lines up like perfectly with your edit. Like you drop some clip in there and you're just like you're finishing like this thought process, and it just so happens to be that's like the end of the song too. And you're like, oh my God, you didn't have to like just like volume pan it out to make it sound like it was the end. It's like just perfect. Oh man, it's like, I don't know how else to explain it. It's like just like
it's one of the most satisfying things in the world, for sure.
Yeah, it totally is.
Even like I spend way too much time like cutting clips in a montage or things to line up on the beat, or even
I do that,
or have someone land on the beat, and because I care. Like I don't know, I really think that's the stuff that the people who know, they know. You'll see it and you're like, nice. And but for me, when I'm making the video, I'm like, yes. That, like when you're like 2 a.m. and you got a whole thing and you're like, everything just, it feels right. But I think I put so much time into the stuff on the back end of editing these videos that most people will never notice, but the video will feel right. And
that's the thing, is like it's good if they don't notice. You know what I mean? Like that, you don't want them to notice. Like at the end of the day, you want them to just be like, that was rad. I don't know why. I like it.
And so I think that's why people connected. And the first one that I started when the pandemic happened, I started just rebuilding my jumps. I'm like, okay, I can't work with a filmer anymore. Can't work with editor, any of this other stuff. What do I got? We're here in the yard. Everyone's locked down. My yard's a mess right now after the winter. I'm going to rebuild the pump track, and then I'm going to rebuild these jumps one at a time. And so people started to follow along then. And then when we built the roll-in for Milo's jump, I made a whole video on just building the roll-in. So I was up there with my kids and I was teaching them carpentry skills and making dad jokes. And
how does your family feel being part of the channel?
They have a good time with it. I keep it low pressure for them though too. So
I mean, but when you go on a trip, like you went to down to South America recently, it's like, or like the thing that you guys did up in the backcountry, it's, I mean, I know from somebody that's filming, like what kind of effort that takes to like get the shots that you're getting. So I mean, it's like, hey, that looks cool that you guys are all eating dinner, but somebody was standing there holding the camera,
Yeah, totally. And so I think about that a lot too. And so that we talk about it ahead of time. This is what we're going to do. And of course, this has been my job since they were born. So they've grown up around cameras being around and people doing like filming me. And now they get to see the finished product, and they laugh, watching it, and they enjoy watching the videos, which is cool. So like I'll come home sometimes and they'll be, watching a few of them in a row and like looking at when they were younger, and they see how cool it is. And Owen likes being on camera more than Milo, as I'm sure like anyone that watches a lot can tell. And he is like a little showman, and he eats it up, and Milo he would rather have his riding do the talking, but also like he's fine talking on camera too. And so they understand when we go on a trip that part of the time, we went for 3 weeks to Ecuador, and so we didn't film the whole time. We had time to just ride spots, and we went to Galapagos too and didn't make a video there. And
that's important.
So I really try to balance it out so that most of their lives they're not filming. And I see these family channels on YouTube, and I'm like, I don't know how they do that and stay sane and have a healthy relationship with each other, because like I put videos out every 2 to 3 weeks, and a lot of them the kids are in, but a lot of them they're not too. Like I'll say, hey, you want to do this? And if they're like, yeah, that sounds awesome, they're like, cool. And so if we're going to do that, then I need you to be on board with this, and we're going to go do stuff. And still, you know, like if you watch the time lapses when we're building stuff, they're in and out, and I'm there the whole time slapping dirt or whatever. But I try to keep the experience first. And so that's where like the only like Ecuador, my friend Juan, he's a filmer and has a production company in Ecuador. So I hired him to film that trip because I knew that if he was there to document, then we could focus more on the experience. And
that's awesome.
So it would make it just work better. And same thing with the yurt trip, skiing and snowboarding. I was with my friend Justin. He came along and shot that because I was like, I could do it myself, but it would be more stressful on me. I'd be in charge.
That's like my dream, man, is get to the point where I can have somebody else helping film. I
go back and forth because I'm like, I'm not there yet to be able to afford to hire someone for all the videos. And funny enough, the Ecuador and the yurt videos didn't perform as well as like most of the other ones that I filmed myself. So I'm like, I don't even know what the answer is here. Like someone, and you're like, there's something about it that maybe it was the time of year when they came out or whatever. They still did fine, but they didn't go off like some of the other ones. And so I don't know what the answer is there, but either way, it is nice having a filmer. And then I still edited all those myself because I thought about having them edit them, but I was like, they don't know what's in my head. I don't exactly know what this will look like when it comes out either. And I think
no, it's tough. It's definitely tough. It's tough to like. I guess it depends on like how you create. You know, some guys do like storyboards and they like think out their whole thing beforehand. They have like a script written already, and like other guys film it and see what happens. And then there's like, you know, everything in between. So, it could be one of those things that I would look forward to, but I actually don't know if that's what I want. It just sounds appealing that I wouldn't have to do it.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I'm like, well, editing takes forever. And then filming is like having to come up with the story and all the shots that I need to tell that. And it's a lot mentally as well. So the whole process is like mentally taxing, you know, to come up with something good. Sometimes it just flows. I'm trying to spend some time right now to kind of have more of a summer plan and a bunch of ideas and kind of form those a bit more so I can hopefully cut down on overshooting and cut down on editing time. So I'm trying to do the process better as well. But you know, in the end, when I do finish a video that I made totally myself, like it feels really good. And I do enjoy that. So I think that is, you know, cool to keep that. And it's not scalable. Like I can't all of a sudden I can't do what I'm doing and make a video a week, like a full length video. Because then I would give up all of my time not filming with the family. And and I really, you know, all of that always comes first is just the relationships with the kids and having fun with them and riding without the camera. And so it's a tough balance because especially being that if I put out high quality videos every week, there's a pretty good chance that I would financially do quite a bit better. But I'm not willing to make that sacrifice at this point in my life with how old the kids are and how.
I mean, money's not everything, man.
How much we like each other and have fun doing this. And like, I'd hate to burn out on it. So I'm, you know, trying to find that balance of I'd like to settle into I was doing every 2 weeks and I was on it for a while. And I wanted more time to be able to do what I wanted to and just not be like constantly like 24 hours a day charging into the next thing. And so then sometimes it would end up going a bit too long. And then you run into you finish a video and you're like, oh, I'll take it, you know, a week to catch up on business stuff and life stuff and house projects. And then that turns into
dude,
another
sometimes
week. And
yeah, sometimes you blink your eyes and you're like looking at your last one and you're like, holy shit, that was a month ago. You're like, oh my God, I didn't even know that happened, but like,
yeah,
I think at the end of the day, just do what feels right. You know what I mean? And I
yeah,
think that everybody has their own thing. And for me, like I like ebb and flow with it. Sometimes I'm like all over it, and sometimes I'm not doing it all the time. So I
yeah,
mean, granted, this isn't my full-time job, so I mean that would probably be different if I was like really like needing the income for that. But at the end of the day, I mean, it would be rad if I would be able to come out here and like fly people down to my studio to do the podcast every week, and that was my job,
yeah.
So like, how do you get there? You have to put the work in,
Yeah, totally.
So
Yeah, and it's like I wouldn't say I have balance figured out at all.
yeah,
The way that I balance things is I take on all this stuff, and then I just and then I alter things as they need to and move things around to like, oh, kid's got something, like we moved stuff around today for the timing on this because I had a NICA ride leader training
yeah,
from 6 to 8. So I had to go, we're about to start the NICA coaching season. And I'm like, if you looked at my schedule, like that's not a good idea to commit, 2 to 3 hours, 2 days a week, or maybe more.
yeah, yeah.
But though, like this is a cool way to like go out with Milo's on the team and then pass on all the stuff I know to all the other middle school kids that are riding, getting into it. And so I'm like, that's really cool. And like the time, all of this stuff, I don't know, like I go back and forth where I'm like, I need to go 100% in and make like an awesome video every week. But then I'm like, that means saying no to doing all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I get
that's what I juggle with. It's like if I really wanted to like push super hard on the podcast, for example, like I'd be making clips and like all kinds of different stuff, right? And I could be doing this 3-4 nights a week. You know what I mean? Like I could really like do that. But on the other hand, then like the amount of time that I get to ride is not going to happen, or the amount of time that I get to make the other videos that I like to do, like that's not going to happen. Like you definitely have to like, or like spending time with my wife, or like, you know what I mean? Like all the other stuff, is like, or like going to dinner with some friends, like those are all things that you'd have to give up.
Yeah.
And it's a juggling act, man.
It is tough.
I definitely appreciate you carving out some time for me though today. I mean, we were just chatting at Otter a couple weeks ago and thought it would be fun to get on and talk. And I mean, here we are 2 hours later, and I know it's late your time. I really do appreciate you sitting down and chatting with me and the rest of the subscribers and followers over here on the BYKER Bar.
No, this is super fun. I love doing it. And it's one of those things that's like, it's hard to schedule or plan around because they're like, oh, I really need to be doing this or that. But then I'm like, I know I have a good time hanging out and talking with you. And so I love doing it. And
right on, man. Yeah, dude. It was, I when we were chatting at Otter, I was like, dude, we need to talk. I noticed like when I was setting this one up, the last episode you were on was like 83 or 86. I'm at 151 now. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
That's so crazy. Yeah.
It works with good conversations though too. And it's pretty awesome for sure. And it's late. Man, it's always, that's kind of my solution is you have time at night because there's no deadline. You just pay for it with lack of sleep. But you can get stuff done and you can hang, this has been super fun talking.
Yeah, it's a good time. Fortunately, I'm a guy that doesn't need a lot of sleep, so
I'm the same way. I never understood it, and then I started like learning about it a little bit more, and like I'm just a good sleeper.
That's what I've been telling myself.
Well, I got I had no idea. I got one of the Otter rings so I could like track my sleep and really stand it, and the amount of time like in like your deep sleep and REM sleep and light sleep and like your sleep efficiency basically and getting the right amount of cycles. I'm hitting that with like, 6-7 hours that people would get with like 8 or 9 or 10 hours because they're not sleeping as well. So maybe it's because I'm too tired, but
right.
it's now I just have data to be able to justify not sleeping
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. That's basically what you're doing. I like what you're doing though. I basically have gone down the same rabbit hole. So nonetheless,
It's like an alcoholic that's like, oh, but it's all right because I didn't get fired from my job, and like I still got family and kids, and I can do everything and drink as much as I want, so it's cool.
Exactly. Well, like I said, man, definitely appreciate you hanging out. Those of you that aren't familiar with his channel, I don't know how you couldn't be, but Eric Porter MTB on YouTube. He's got the Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter, the TikTok, all those other things. You can go find him out there. Definitely give him a follow. There's a link in the show more of YouTube to get over to his channel, as well as the show notes of the podcast. So do me that favor and check him out. And while you're over there, swing by mine if you haven't already, and give me a like and a follow at those places as well. That'd be super rad. Definitely appreciate all you patrons out there that are listening. Thank you so much. You honestly keep this thing going. Anybody wants to buy me a beer, swing by Patreon. It'd be rad. Outside of that, there's one thing that you all need to remember. It only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.